This is projecteae here with a video review for the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive for the Transformers Prime First Edition Optimus Prime. It is for the deluxe figure. It's an early release with some pretty notable special packaging. A little bit to cover about the packaging at the very least, so let's get into it. Of course, we have this big box here. Nice, very shiny foil etched or embossed, I guess, edging and stuff. Very nice. Lightning color effects. Good blue. Cool, I guess, image of the Prime from, or Optimus Prime from Transformers Prime, with the a very stylized matrix right there. And of course, with the quote from the 1987 movie, quoted by Prime himself: "One day an Autobot shall rise from our ranks and use the power of the Matrix to light our darkest hour." Funny, or I guess kind of interesting, since this pose always, I believe, Hot Rod took at the very end of the 1987 movie. So very kind of interesting. So it's kind of cool. Of course, at the bottom we have a stamp here with the Transformers Club stamp, hazard labels, barcode, and so forth. Again, of course, we have our San Diego Comic-Con stamp there. Alright, and then of course, sealing the package is this really cool giant magnet with, of course, all the Autobot logo and all the information on it. And then, of course, when you take it off, we're exposed with just this Prime window packaging. And of course, when you open it up, you get the Matrix. And of course, Prime, of course, inside, which is a very nice figure, of course. But of course, and then of course, on the inside of our windows here, we get some information regarding the, I guess, summary of Transformers Prime, or the setup for the store so far. Of course, we see some Autobots in the front here on this cliff, and then of course we see the Decepticons in the back, and of course an advertisement to see it on the hub. Alright, and then over on this side, we get some information, of course, Prime himself directly. And then of course another image of Prime there. I'll move this aside. And then when we take out the Matrix for Prime, we have, of course, some more of that nice lightning blue energy kind of thing, I guess, effect from the Matrix, or from on the box there. But enough on the box, we'll take that away. And of course, here we have the Matrix with its, of course, own stand. Be really interesting if this is actually similar to how the packaging would be for Prime, but I'm pretty sure they're not going to spend this kind of dough on the packaging alone, because then, well, that could actually go into the cost for the figure. We have, of course, a nice velcroed strap here with some Autobot etchings here, so you can wear the Matrix around, or you can just take it off. Alright. Alright, and it's a simple clamshell collector-friendly packaging. On the back, of course, we see another image of the back rear Prime there, all metal, and then, of course, in the front we have different, we see some more chromed out, or not chrome, just kind of weathered metal, both of the gunmetal and gold variety there, and of course there's a little stamp there. Alright, clamshell is of course very easy to open, have some numerous tabs all about, you just got to pull them out. Alright, if I can figure out how to open it. Alright, and then of course Prime himself is a simple tray that you just pull out. You can reseal it for collector-friendly purposes again, and when you're done, you put it back. You can kind of have a giant Matrix there, complete with energy effect in the middle, which is kind of cool. So, yes, moving it. Alright. Prime is normally secured via twisty ties, but taking the liberty of taking care of those a little bit. Let's properly readjust him. But enough with the packaging and stuff. Time to get on to the figure. Alright, so a first look in Prime in his vehicle mode, and then we'll do a quick transform over to robot mode, and then we'll do a quick glimpse at that. Pretty basic standard vehicle mode. Of course, gone is the time of the old Mac-10 trucks, unless we're talking like old classic lines or something. A lot of course, the TF designs are reminiscent of the recent Michael Bay Transformers, Bayformers designs. So of course, that's but the nice thing is, of course, it's all very more G1 inspired than, and actually some of the aspects are from War for Cybertron and recent TF lore, it seems, which of course can all contribute to a much more robust story for new and old fans. So very cool. Pretty standard truck mode. Kind of course, the mold is a lot smaller. Hasbro's of course been shrinking and using less plastic as of late. No rubber tires or anything, but rolls really nicely. Silver paint apps on top of the hood there, or not on top of the hood, above the windshield. Some silver in the headlights, silver on the hubcaps. Bare gray plastic on the smokestacks and on the grille in front, and of course here you can see the hitch, and of course the Buster cannon. Bare plastic except for some paint apps we'll go over later. Don't need to look at that now. And then of course rolls very nicely, and of course here's a quick size comparison to War for Cybertron Prime there. Color palettes are very similar. Both kind of have this very subtle candied sparkle, metallic sparkle kind of thing going on. Of course, the blue on War for Cybertron Prime is a little bit darker. Except noticeably is this paint in blue here is about the same blue as here versus the actual blue plastic there. So besides from that, that's pretty much all there is to say about the vehicle mode. No crazy stealth force mode or anything. No weird weapon mode or anything. Pretty straightforward. But let's get on to the transformation. Here we have Prime in his robot mode. Very solid mode. Has this big square in his back for backpacking, but overall the backpacking is pretty well done, and actually reminds me a lot of design aspects from Bayformers Prime, with of course the diagonal parts on his backpack, except in actual Bayformer Prime these would be the oil tanks diagonally and stuff. But interesting choice, and of course wheels of course are closer to the design on the original G1 Prime, even with the blue and the ridges here, so nice choice. Smokestacks of course are not on the shoulders, they're in the main torso area, so kind of more Bayformers. So, but overall, figure is a nice looking representation, especially for its size, being a deluxe, and a smaller class deluxe at that nowadays. But let's go over sculpt and articulation. As we can see here, sculpt is fairly nice. Not too detailed, but not too bland either. We see some paint apps here in the torso section here. Gray windows, although I believe there's a variant coming out with blue windows. And of course, a very movie-inspired head sculpt there. Very nice, crisp lines. Kind of wish it's got soft lines on the sculpting lines. Kind of wish there was harder edges and stuff. As you can see some inner detail, mechanical detail. Etching designs on the big square, the big backpack there. Alright, so not too bad on the sculpt, but onto articulation. Has a ball jointed head, goes back and forth, a little tilt up. His arms, of course, have an interesting joint. For transformation, it can tilt, so it can actually accommodation for actually the waist when it actually meets together, but also it can lift upward, which also I suppose can give it an extra little bit of range here for the arms, so it can raise up on the swivel, and of course go full 360. Interesting bit, the joint for the arm is, of course, it is not in the center, but actually more in the front of the shoulder piece. So that means that when it kind of looks like it sits a little bit lower, so it looks a little bit odd in certain poses, unfortunately. I wish there was a way to lock or slide a mechanism over so it would be a little bit more flush, but they will probably hopefully fix that in the Voyager mold, which looks really nice. We have a swiveling elbow there, and of course a 90-degree bend, and of course ball-jointed wrist. We have a raised swivel, but we're a little bit inhibited by the backpack, but at least we have it there. Ball-jointed hips, swivel thigh, 90-degree joints on the knees there, and then of course we have multiple swivels here on the ankle, so we can go a little bit, we can tilt up here, and then we can tilt just a little bit, so we can get a little bit more of a wide stance, so not too bad. As you can see, while of course there's a fairly decent amount of joints, not extraordinary, but fairly standard, and I guess a good staple of what a lot of people consider the standard amount these days. Prime can get into some basic poses and stuff, nothing too, crazy acrobatic kung fu Spider-Man-like, but it can still manage to cover quite a bit. Alright, so far, not too bad. Nothing too extraordinary noteworthy, but not too many on the horrible points or anything. He transforms because he is a Transformers, but of course, gotta have an accessory, right? That's what the Buster Cannon is for. No launching mechanics here or anything, but basic and simple and straight to the point, which of course I think most collectors and most people would rather have with their figures. So, quick final thoughts. Is this Prime worth your time? Does it stack up nicely next to the War for Cybertron or the Classics Prime or anything? Well, that depends. Some can argue whether or not those were good Prime figures or not, funny enough. And I kind of feel the same way about this figure. It doesn't stand out to me as like an amazing Prime or anything, but it's not a bad one. It's definitely a nice representation for the sculpt, especially being a smaller deluxe scale. The proportions are nice, but there are a few flaws, of course. For one, the transforming wrist joint here, or above the wrist joint, could have pegged or locked into place. Because without it, when moving the wrist, it can be a hindrance, and of course, it's something you got to readjust, because nothing in this assembly here actually locks into place. This is actually a bigger flaw, though, I think, which is because the joint's not centralized in the base of the shoulder, posing it can, of course, look very awkward, as if Prime himself has lower shoulders, or a broken shoulder, or just drooping shoulders. And, of course, due to the stature and design of the aesthetic of the figure, that's not something you would like for play value or for posing as well, which is a shame. And, of course, a personal nitpick, of course, which is not necessary to the actual overall verdict of the figure, but I think it would have been nice considering the fact that it's just a hunk of plastic. I wish the basic Buster Cannon design could have pegged on somewhere on the body, maybe the ports on the hubcaps or on the body or somewhere. It would have been a nice feature. Otherwise, it's just a disposable hunk of plastic now, isn't it? But besides from that, I wouldn't recommend this as a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive unless you're a hardcore fan. It's definitely not a bad figure again, but not extraordinary. You probably wait for this when it comes out in its regular release, and I would not pay full value for it. I wouldn't pay the full MSRP for it. My guess probably going to be $11.99 in some places, which is I think is going to be ridiculous. $8.99 pretty standardized. I'd pay around that or lower, depending on your personal bias toward this figure. But other than that, not a bad figure to collect. I personally like the small scale stuff, so I don't mind having him. And but of course, I would definitely probably recommend that maybe the Voyager one might be up. Generally, everyone's alley, just because it's got a nicer sculpt, looks like it has nicer gimmicks, and looks pretty immaculate. But that's been my opinion on that. This has been the video review on the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, the Transformers Prime First Edition Optimus Prime Deluxe figure. Hope this video review has been helpful in some form or fashion. If you need any additional information, a written review, or some more pictures, check out the blog as always in the bottom of the description. But that's been it for this. So I will see you guys at the next video. Thanks.